Hey everyone, and welcome back to Speak More Fluently. I think we've all been there whether we have this amazing idea, right? But
Yeah.
when we try to explain it in English, it doesn't quite have the impact we were hoping for.
Oh, absolutely. It can be so frustrating, especially when you know you have something valuable to contribute.
Exactly. So whether you're prepping for a huge presentation at work or just want to feel more confident when you're speaking up in meetings or even just, casually chatting with friends,
Yeah.
this deep dive is for you.
We're going to be talking about some practical strategies to help you become a more effective and confident presenter, specifically in English.
And the best part, these tips are useful even if English isn't your first language. We'll be focusing on how to connect with your audience and make your message resonate. Really make it stick.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how brilliant your ideas are if you can't communicate them in a way that people understand and, actually care about.
Right. It's all about getting your point across. So, ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so first things first, you got to know who you're talking to.
Yeah, understanding your audience is crucial. It's like the foundation of any good presentation.
So, it's not enough to just know, their job titles or, general demographics. We need to go deeper than that, right?
Right. Think about it this way. If you were recommending a movie to a friend, you wouldn't suggest a horror flick to someone who hates scary movies.
Yeah, you probably end up with no friends pretty quickly.
Exactly. So with presentations, it's the same idea. Consider things like their age range, their cultural backgrounds, what kind of things they might be interested in outside of work.
What about their existing knowledge of the topic? I mean, if you're talking to a room full of experts, you're going to approach it differently than if you're speaking to a group who's hearing about this for the first time, right?
For sure. You also want to think about what they're hoping to learn from you, what their expectations are. And for those of you listening who are focused on speaking more fluently in English, consider their comfort level with the language itself.
That's such a good point. You don't want to bombard them with jargon or complex grammar if they're still working on building their vocabulary.
Exactly. Tailoring your message to your audience isn't just about simplifying your language. It's about choosing examples and references that are relevant to their experiences and interests. It's about finding that common ground.
Okay, so we've got the audience in mind.
Yeah.
Now what? Where do we even begin with, structuring the presentation itself?
Structure is key. Think of it like a roadmap, both for you as the speaker and for your audience.
So a good structure helps to keep everyone on track, right?
Yeah.
It makes the information easier to follow.
Precisely. And when it comes to structure, there's a classic format that works really well. Introduction, body, and conclusion.
Okay, so starting with the introduction, what needs to go in there?
Well, you want to start by greeting your audience. Sounds obvious, but it sets the tone. Then clearly introduce your topic, and, this is crucial, explain why it's important for them. Why should they care about what you're about to tell them?
Right. Grab their attention from the get-go. It's all about that hook. What else?
Give them a quick overview of what you'll be covering, almost like a little roadmap of the main points you're going to hit. This helps them to follow along and know what to expect.
Okay, so we've set the stage with the introduction, laid out the roadmap. Now we're into the meat of the presentation.
The body, yeah. Aim for 3 to 5 main points. This keeps things focused and prevents information overload.
So not too much, not too little, just the right amount to really dive deep. What's the best way to present those main points, though?
Build understanding gradually. Start with a basic explanation, then layer in examples, maybe share a quick story that illustrates the point. And again, keep your language as clear and simple as possible.
And those examples and stories,
Yeah.
those are what really help to make the information memorable, right?
Exactly. They make it relatable. They bring the concepts to life.
So, introduction, body. Now what? How do we wrap things up?
With a strong conclusion. Briefly summarize the main takeaways, remind them why the topic matters, and end with a call to action, or maybe even a thought-provoking question.
Something to leave them thinking even after the presentation's over.
Exactly. Leave them wanting more. Now, let's talk language. Because even with the best structure, if your language isn't clear and engaging, you're going to lose your audience.
This is where things get tricky, especially for non-native English speakers. It can be tough to strike that balance between sounding natural and being understood.
Right. But there are a few things you can focus on. First, prioritize clarity. Use shorter sentences. Avoid super complex grammatical structures. Think. Subject, verb, object. Keep it straightforward.
That makes sense. Simple and to the point.
Yep. Also, slow down. I know it can feel strange, but Consciously speaking at a slightly slower pace gives your audience time to process what you're saying.
And it gives you time to think. I mean, we all get those moments where we're like, trying to find the right words.
Exactly. Speaking slowly also helps with pronunciation, which is another key factor in being understood.
Any tips on improving pronunciation?
Record yourself speaking. It might feel awkward at first, but it's a really good way to identify areas where you could, enunciate more clearly.
I've heard practicing with a language partner can be helpful too.
Definitely. And try to avoid idioms and slang. They can be confusing for people who aren't familiar with them, especially non-native English speakers.
So stick with widely understood words and phrases.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Anxiety. Even with all this prep, most people still get nervous before speaking in public.
Or absolutely. I think everyone's experienced that feeling of their heart racing, palms sweating.
It's completely normal. The good news is there are ways to manage it. First, practice, practice, practice. The more familiar you are with your material, the more confident you'll feel.
So rehearsing out loud is key, like actually standing up and delivering the presentation as if you were in front of an audience.
Yeah. Practice in front of a mirror, record yourself, whatever works for you, and try visualizing yourself giving a successful presentation.
That sounds almost too simple, but I've heard that visualization techniques can be really effective.
They are. They help you build that mental confidence. And right before you go on, take a few deep breaths. It sounds cliche, but it really does help to calm your nerves.
It's all about that mindful breathing.
Exactly. And here's a trick. Shift your focus from yourself to your message. Instead of worrying about how you sound, think about the value you're bringing to your audience.
So it's not about you. It's about what you're sharing. I like that.
And remember, it's a process. Start with small speaking opportunities, like presenting to a small group of friends or colleagues. Gradually work your way up to larger, more formal settings.
Baby steps. Now let's talk about engagement. How do we keep our audience hooked?
Asking questions is a great way to keep people involved. It doesn't have to be anything complex, just a simple question to get them thinking.
So instead of just passively listening, they're actually engaging with the material.
Exactly. You can also use personal stories or real-life examples to make your points more relatable and memorable.
I always find it more engaging when a speaker shares personal anecdotes. It adds a human touch.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of body language. Eye contact, natural gestures, a genuine smile. These all help you connect with your audience on a deeper level.
It's about creating that sense of connection, like you're having a conversation with the whole room.
You got it.
Yeah.
Visual aids can also be really effective, but they need to be used strategically. Keep your slides clean and simple, avoid information overload, use images and visuals to support your points, not distract from them.
And practice with the technology beforehand. The last thing you want is a technical meltdown in the middle of your presentation.
Absolutely. Murphy's Law, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you're comfortable with the projector, the microphone, any software you're using.
Now, speaking of presentation, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
Nonverbal communication.
It plays a huge role in how your message is perceived. Your posture, your eye contact, your facial expressions, they all communicate volumes.
So stand tall, make eye contact with different people in the audience, and use natural hand gestures to emphasize your points.
And don't forget to smile. It makes you appear more approachable and engaging.
Okay, let's talk Q&A. For a lot of people, this is the scariest part of the presentation.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. The key is preparation. Try to anticipate the types of questions you might get and think through your answers beforehand.
And if you get a question you don't know the answer to,
It's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll find out and get back to you. Be honest and transparent. The important thing is to stay calm, listen attentively, and respond respectfully.
you're showing your audience that you value their questions and their engagement.
Exactly. Now, we've covered a lot, but there's one thing that underpins all of this. Practice.
There's that word again.
It's the key to mastering any skill, especially public speaking. Record yourself, practice in front of others, get feedback, and keep refining your delivery.
And if you can, try to practice in the actual space where you'll be presenting. Getting familiar with the environment can help to reduce those pre-presentation jitters.
Absolutely. And here are a few final tips. Keep your notes organized, but avoid reading from them verbatim. Manage your time effectively. Be adaptable and responsive to your audience, and celebrate your progress along the way.
Every presentation is a learning opportunity. So, to recap, we've talked about understanding your audience, planning your structure, using clear language, managing anxiety, engaging your audience, using technology effectively, the power of nonverbal communication, handling Q&A, and of course, the importance of practice.
And the takeaway is, becoming a more confident and effective presenter in English is totally achievable. It's about developing a set of skills, not just relying on natural talent.
So as you go about your week, think about the next time you'll have the opportunity to speak up, whether it's at work, in a social setting, or even just with family and friends. How can you apply just one of the things we've talked about today? And what difference could that make in how your message is received? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into becoming a more fluent and confident speaker.